Welcome back. It's exactly 9:23 a.m. Still to come on the show, we'll be talking with Deputy Principal of the Roshan Islamic School, Hava Patel, about Career Day. Also on the show, we'll catch up with African Muslim Agency and the South Africa Empower SA Cycle Tour. And in Councillor's Corner, we'll be chatting with Refilwe Nseke. She's the DA mayoral candidate for Ekurhuleni. But right now, Wynand Engelbrech, CEO of privately owned firefighting operation Fire Ops South Africa. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you, Jeff.
Now, we understand that the City of Johannesburg's firefighting service is in such a dire situation that a private company like yourself is stepping in to fill the gap. This obviously raises fears that such emergency services could become reserved for those who can afford it. Your thoughts on the matter?
I'm not sure that's the angle one should take. The private fire brigade services simply follows onto the general demise of service delivery in the country. It's not just fire service. And so it happens that fire brigade services is probably the last bastion to fall in the municipal service product basket.
Okay, so
with the demise of the service in Johannesburg, it was obvious that a private organization would take up the slack. But I think the angle that was taken even by Councillor Michael Sun yesterday, that the poorer people will not receive service, well, that's just nonsense, because that is still a responsibility of the City Council of Johannesburg in this instance, and they're just not able to do their work. So they're trying to shift it into this angle, but it's the wrong angle to take.
Okay, Wynand, I hear you loudly and clearly, and obviously there's a gap in the market, and it's a dire service delivery issue, and it's also a dire need in Johannesburg and all around the country. So we get that, and we applaud you for filling that gap. So how are you going to go about servicing the people? How does this all operate?
Well, I think it's quite simple. We've made an offer to the City Council of Johannesburg on several occasions, where we say to them, just appoint us or somebody similar, and there is nobody similar, but just appoint us as a contractor for, say, a period of 5 years. We will do all the work, and then all the people will be served as it is. And then they have a period of 5 years in which they can try and get themselves back onto their feet. So it's not as if the people cannot possibly be serviced. And in fact, approximately 60% of our work are social responsibility calls. So we do check fires in the city center, and we attend to plenty incidents where there is just no potential for billing. And so it's probably more than 60% of our work are social responsibility calls. So it's not as if the potential isn't there to serve the people. We can do it. We can in fact service the entire city, but not from my personal pocket, because that's where it comes from. It doesn't come from any subsidies. So if the city would appoint us as a contractor, it'll be resolved in 48 hours. Simple as that.
Now, obviously, let's take the first issue. Ideally, we do know that the city should have at least 30 fire engines operating daily throughout the city's 30 fire stations. But currently, we are told that only 12 fire engines are strategically placed in high-risk areas to effectively respond to fire incidents throughout the city. That is just not good enough. According to other reports, we're hearing that the number of available fire engines in Joburg at any given time is significantly lower than 12. And this source has also gone on to say that it seems that the fire engines are old and spend most of the time at repair workshops instead of being on the road serving the residents of the city. So I do applaud you for coming into the space and servicing servicing Johannesburg. But as you've rightfully said, you can't do it out of your pocket. You've got to get paid for your services. So how does it operate? Let's assume there's a fire in my immediate vicinity. Whom do I contact? And in terms of costs, who's going to carry it? Should I have a fire risk cost on my property? How does it all work? Please explain.
You've raised about 10 points in just this one sentence that you said. Let's first address the fact they don't have a service agreement for their vehicles, and that's why it takes them forever to fix it. Furthermore, the person who gave you the information that they've got 7 fire engines, well, that's just outright a lie. They've got 7 red trucks, but all red trucks aren't fire engines. So they've got a hazmat unit, for instance. They have got the major rescue unit, which is intended for earthquakes and the likes, which just isn't going to happen. And they've got a water tanker, and they've got a turntable ladder that doesn't work, that hasn't worked for years. And they've actually got 3 engines. That's what they have, and they've got 2 rapid intervention vehicles. And they're not supposed to have 30. They're supposed to have 112 apparatus. That's the combination of vehicles. They're not supposed to have 1 engine per station. That's nonsense. There are international standards that they have to comply with. And so, okay, let's get to the fees. If we attend to, firstly, we charge a service fee of 35 rand per month for a household to be part of our program. 35 rand a month, which the homeowners normally pay annually in advance. And if there's a fire in your property, it'll cost you between 2,500 and 20,000 maybe, which you take that bill and pass it onto your insurer directly, and the insurer pays us. The homeowner doesn't pay us. It's the insurer that pays us. Mm-hmm. Now let's take the power station that burned the day before yesterday, Joburg South. We attended that fire. We were there for 20 minutes before Joburg Fire Department arrived. And that bill will go to City Power. They will probably want to dispute it because they've got a fire brigade, they normally say to us. But they arrived 20 minutes after us, and we dealt with that fire for a few hours. And in that instance, the bill goes to the City Power, who will then be responsible for it, because I'm not sure whether they have insurance or how that works. So mostly it's insurance. So if it's a social responsibility. We have, for instance, 70 shacks in the inner city and 26 shacks. Not only do we take the fire out, we also supply people at the same time of the night with food parcels and blankets. We've got a complete stockpile of these items. So not only do we fight the fires for Joburg Fire Department, we also do the civic responsibility part that disaster management is supposed to do, also of the city, and we actually hand out food parcels and blankets after a shack fire, after a firestorm has gone through shacks. So we do far more than what is expected of us.
Look, we commend you for your social responsibility work. And we commend you for having taken this gap in the market, because imagine if you were not around. The city would burn down to the ground.
Insurance companies would have cried themselves, would have cried in their pillows.
Okay, so you obviously have you come from a very strong firefighting background, as does your crew. How many people do you have in your company, and are you planning to go national? Question number 1, and then question number 2. Can you hear me? I'm losing you there, Wynand.
I'm with you.
Okay. How big is your operation, and where are you based? How big is your operation, and where are you based?
Well, we have 53 firefighters, full-time firefighters on our payroll. We are operating from 6 patches in the city of Johannesburg. In other words, 6 satellite stations. And at the moment, we're operating in Johannesburg only, but we will definitely be We're looking at the Western Cape or Cape Town next. It'll probably happen earlier next year.
Okay. What happens if I'm not insured, or as a private homeowner, I'm not insured, and my house goes up in flames? You will still
firstly,
come.
One would be really foolish if you're not insured if you own a home. But we attend to the fire and we talk money after the fact. We've never ever talked about money before we respond. If there's a building fire, we respond to the building fire. Now, if you're a homeowner and you honestly do not have insurance, neither on your building nor on your content, firstly, you'd be really foolish, but we will still give you a bill. And if you then plead poverty and you can really motivate your poverty, we will just deteriorate the bill. We will not refuse to fight a fire in a structure in the city in Joburg.
Okay, so obviously you are there to service the community. How long have you been doing this work? And in terms of seeing this fleet growing, because there is a need for this, is there not? And I should imagine other service providers because I do know of private ambulance services as well, because there were similar, or there are still the same type of problems we've had over the years, where you phone for an ambulance and they just do not pitch, or they pitch 4 hours or a day later.
Yes. The principle is simple. Anybody with owning a building, let's say you own a house in Mayfair. You have the constitutional right to protect your asset in any which way you choose. And you can appoint any contractor to do it on your behalf. And in this case, it's against fire. And so if you can appoint your own security company because the police don't do their work, and you send your child to a private school because education doesn't work, and you go to a private hospital because Charlotte Mateke doesn't work, then of course you can appoint a fire contractor to put your fire out. It's a constitutional right. And on the other hand, I've got a constitutional right to run a business. Mm-hmm. And so where these two meet, where that's the sweet spot for both of us.
No, Wynand, this interview is not about, getting your back up against the wall. It's about applauding you for doing the type of work you're doing. And I do hope there's going to be more service providers like yourself, more private fire service providers, ambulances, security companies, etc. We need it because we're just not getting service delivery from council. But that having been said, are you the only type of operation currently in Johannesburg or currently in the country?
In the entire footprint of Johannesburg, we're the only company. And there are little volunteer groups with trailers and buckies, but as far as a structured fire brigade is concerned, we're the only fire brigade in Joburg.
Okay, so my final question to you. If you had, we get these list of emergent telephone numbers from council and from your local, council, etc., but I don't think your number appears on there. So if people do have a situation of a fire, how do they get hold of you? And in that crazy moment of emergency, how are they going to find you?
Okay, firstly, our members who sign up with us get access to our app, but it's only for the paying members. They get access to the app, which access us in 60 seconds right down to the crew. The other alternative for people who are not members can phone this telephone number, and I'm going to give it to you just now so people have time to get their pens ready. And if they phone us, it gets directly to the watch room, and we will then attend to that emergency.
Right.
And the telephone number is 083
622
6026.
6026. There we have it, 0836 222 6026, and you will then go on that particular call out. Just as a matter of interest, where are you based? Where are your headquarters?
Well, our headquarters is in Rosebank, and we have patches in Marshalltown, Rosebank, Rand Park, Shamdor, and Waterfall Park.
Great, so you're widely spaced
and
out.
Of course, Dainfern. Sorry,
All
Dainfern.
right. You're widely spaced out across Johannesburg, and are young people still interested in becoming firefighters? And if they are, how do they sign up to go through this very crucial training?
At any given time, I have about 350 applications in the system of people that are qualified. We prefer to take them in fresh from school at the recruit level because of the physical endurance requirements there are. And our recruitment is a very, 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 very strict program. But they can register on the website. There is a link on the website that they can fill in a very short form, and we will then invite them for the 3-day fast bait and a 1-week hell week and so on. And once they've gone through that, then I make them an offer for recruitment.
Okay.
And it's terribly tough, yes. Yeah.
Okay, Wynand, thank you indeed. Thank you for filling in a gap, a much needed gap. We applaud you for it. And just go well, that's all I can say. And you do operate under the banner of Fire Ops SA.
That's actually Fire Operations Pty Limited. But you know,
Okay.
in common Fidel, we're just known as Fire Ops SA.
Good on you. Thank you for being with us on the show, and continue your amazing work. Wynand Engelbrech, CEO of privately owned firefighting operation Fire Ops SA. And that does give me comfort knowing that we have an organization out there serving the people. It is exactly 9:40 a.m.
Every 60 seconds,
You were so
a silent